If you're like me, you finished the final season of You and were like,
what the hell is even that?
With the finale currently sitting at a 5.7, it's safe to say fans weren't too happy with this ending, especially considering all the other episodes of the season had ratings that ranged from 7.6 to 8.8. So I thought it would be fun to explain why this ending didn't work and how I would have written it to give us that fulfilling ending we all deserve. I also have a video breaking down the entire season, which I'll leave a link to in the description below. But for now, put on your stocking caps and bust out the typewriter. It's time for a rewrite. Before we can fix our ending, we gotta figure out where things went wrong. While the season as a whole wasn't without its problems, such as a weak love interest, over-the-top plot devices, and several characters coming back from the dead,
That bitch has 9 lives.
we're mainly going to focus on the ending, and I've outlined 4 major points that weaken the emotional impact of what could have been a thrilling and memorable finale. The first, and something I covered briefly in my other video, is that Joe didn't get what he deserved. It didn't go far enough. Now, this doesn't mean I think he should have died. In fact, as we'll see in the rewrite, the worst ending for Joe would be one in which he lives. The ending we got, to put it plainly, was too simple. The writers didn't take any risks. Joe is caught and goes to jail. That's it. When writing a finale, you want it to be memorable.
You're goddamn right.
But this ending was so by the book, it accomplishes the exact opposite. I'd much rather have them take a risk with something unconventional and fail than take the safe ending which none of us will remember a week after watching. Over the course of 5 seasons, Joe has killed over 22 people, and I think this warrants a fate worse than what he got. While my first point deals with the plot, my second revolves around character. Joe didn't learn anything in the end. In fact, he continues to portray himself as the victim and even blames us and society as the real perpetrator.
Maybe the problem isn't me. It's you.
What this does is give us little satisfaction that Joe feels remorse for what he has done. He shifts the blame outward instead of inward and robs us of the satisfaction of an evil man feeling the pain of what he has done. My third point is that the last episode wasn't the climax. In traditional storytelling, the climax is the moment of the highest tension and drama and usually involves the main character having to make a choice that determines the direction of the story's resolution. The problem with season 5 is that the moment of highest tension happens in episode 9. We have Joe trapped, a fire is about to kill him, he's confronted by his past lovers, and Bronte has to decide whether to go into the raging fire to save him. This has way more drama than episode 10.
Is it okay?
And it's no wonder that episode 9 is the highest rated of the season. Instead, the final episode ends up being a generic cat and mouse story that almost feels like its own standalone episode separate from the season as a whole. Finally, and perhaps the biggest critique of all, is that they made Bronte the main character.
What are you saying?
The final episode is told from her perspective. She is the one making the big decisions that will affect the outcome of 5 seasons of story. Now, you could say the writers are being all meta here and giving a voice and agency back to women after Joe took that away from them, but it just doesn't work. We've been following Joe all this time, it's his story, he should be making the decisions that ultimately lead to his downfall, not a character that was introduced in the final season and one, I might add, that is particularly disliked by the fan base.
Bronte might just be the most unbearable character on You.
So we've outlined these 4 areas. Let's go about fixing them. The first thing I would do is cut the final episode entirely. Remember, the climax should be the point of highest tension, so for our sakes we're moving the finale to episode 9. I also like the idea that this climax takes place in the basement at Mooney's. There's something poetic about the place that shaped Joe's psychopathy and the cage, which has been a defining feature of the series, being the backdrop for this final act. I'd even keep Mooney's burning down as it acts as a nice metaphor for Joe's own destruction. Next, I would get rid of Marion Bellamy's cameo altogether. Her only reason for being in episode 9 is to sway Bronte against Joe. Remember that up until this point, Bronte believes Joe justified in his actions, that he was doing everything to protect those he loves. By having Bronte continue to believe this lie, it makes her a tragic character and allows us to resituate Joe as the main character, one that will have to make a big decision that will change his fate forever. Now, this big decision, or choice if you will, has to A, change change the direction of the story, and B, be emotionally impactful, the things that are going to get him riled up. I would argue this would be his feeling of abandonment, which stems from his childhood trauma, and the possibility of him losing his son Henry. Throughout the season, we hear how Joe will do anything to protect his son, and I felt their final scene together really fell flat. It doesn't even happen in person, rather over a telephone call where Henry looks like he can't even be bothered because he's playing Candy Crush on his tablet or something. For me, the big decision Joe will have to make boils down to whether or not he'll kill Kate. At this point of the story, there's no way Joe is getting his son back, so by killing Kate, he'd be condemning Henry to grow up abandoned, just like he was. I could even imagine Kate saying something along the lines of, "Do you want your son to grow up discarded and alone just like you?" On the other hand, he could let Kate live, but this would result in him being either captured or killed. Joe, being the delusional man that he is, wrongly believes that he can have his cake and eat it too. He can kill Kate and escape. This will prove to be his downfall. He'll raise Nadia's gun to shoot her when suddenly Henry rushes in and Henry is killed. We can work out how and why he's there, but the point is, this completely alters Joe's ending. Not only does Henry get to literally see Joe for the monster that he is as he dies in Joe's arms, but Joe gets to live the rest of his life in jail with the fact that he killed his own son, the one person he was sworn to protect. This traumatic experience could even trigger Joe to see ghosts of his ex-victims, particularly Love Quinn, who is Henry's biological mother. So when we do see Joe in jail, he's not sitting there lamenting how society made him this way, having learned nothing from his past misdeeds. He's instead wallowing over the death of his son, taunted by the ghosts of his past victims and lovers, now utterly alone to be tortured by those he killed. Obviously, this ending isn't without its problems and would require a tremendous amount of setup, particularly how Henry would get to Mooney's. But my hope is that this new ending will help rectify what I found to be some of the biggest flaws in what has otherwise been a really fun and thrilling series. You has given us 5 great seasons, and I'm really thankful for that. But now I turn it over to you. What did you think of You's ending, and what would you have liked to see change? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember...
I should have known the marriage was over 2 years in when your father stopped wanting to do anal.